Welcome to the 3Haunted podcast, where we bring you all things horror, supernatural, folklore, mythology, and all things that go bump in the night.
Hey guys, this is your co-host Ashley, Gorilla Girl filmmaker, lunar goddess, and cinephile.
Hey y'all, this is your guest ghost host Lila Kay. I'm coming at you from the Mile High to bring you chills and thrills.
And I'm your co-host John Thomas, ghost hunter, super smartass, and film lover extraordinaire.
What's up, ghouls, gals, and all you dreamweavers out there? In today's episode, we'll be discussing lucid dreams, dreamwalking, nightmares, and dream interpretation. Can one really control their dreams? What causes nightmares? Can two people have the exact same dream? Join us and two fantastic returning guests, as well as our special guest host, Lila, to find out.
But first, a word from our network sponsor.
Are you looking for more awesome podcasts? Head on over to withoutyourhead.com for access to the Without Your Head podcast network, where you'll find a variety of podcasts sure to keep you entertained and coming back for more.
Welcome back, everybody. Apparently this season I'm going to have a stuffy nose every single episode. So, hey, let's do that. It's allergy season.
You know what? That happened to me last season. I was stuffy all the time because of all the wildfire smoke. We were recording during like the thick of the wildfires. So better you than me. Just kidding.
And you're not
transfers.
Wrong. Yes. But
apparently it's going to go from person to person.
Yes. But like Ashley said, we do have two returning guests. We have Callie and Shane. Thank you for coming back.
Yeah, welcome back.
Thanks for inviting me back.
Thank you for having me.
Yes. And Lila, thank you for coming back for our guest host.
Yeah, of course. Thanks for having me.
You're like the best guest host ever.
Yeah, we're super excited to have everybody on. I feel like we're all just like, it's a combination. Yeah. We have a lot of really awesome people and we're mixing combinations and vibes and I love it. It's just, right? We're making magic.
Yes. Yeah, I know Callie's been with like 3 or 4 different people now, so that's great.
Whoa.
Hey, yeah, watch out. You're going to ruin my reputation.
Crazy.
Wait, that did sound bad.
Crazy.
I apologize. Oops.
So, let's jump into it. Dreams. I have had a lifelong love-hate relationship with my dreams. I don't know how everybody else feels. Like, I know some people, they don't remember their dreams. Like, they wake up and they just do not remember dreaming. And so you'll hear some people say, I don't dream. And it's like, well, you do, because I think we all do in an REM state, but we just don't necessarily remember them. So, first question to you guys. Like, who remembers their dreams? Are you a vivid dreamer, and do you remember them when you wake up?
Occasionally.
Yeah, I'm with Shane. I don't always remember.
It's funny because I interpret dreams, but I rarely remember my own. But although last night I had very vivid dreams, to the point that they wore me out. Like, I woke up this morning tired from all of my dreaming. I worked very hard in my dreams last night. So
very productive of you.
Yes, exactly.
I feel like that happens though. Like, I feel like the more dreams we remember and the more vivid they are, the more details we remember, they leave like that stronger impact. And it's like, whew, I need a nap from my dreams.
My wife has constant nightmares, actually, where she wakes me up constantly, because if she wakes up and then she's afraid she falls back asleep, she continues right where she left off on the dream. And then so she wants me to, talk to her or turn the TV on or turn the radio on so she kind of can get back in that relaxed state. But yeah, it's been ever since we were married. She always wakes up with nightmares.
Common denominator. Just kidding.
Ever since y'all were married. Oh.
It's on Shane.
Yeah.
That's why I have a love-hate relationship with my dreams. I feel like I've had just vivid nightmares since I was a child. And paired with like sleep paralysis, which I've had since I was a kid, it just makes me not a big fan of dreams and sleeping. But similar to your wife, like, I know that feeling where you have a nightmare, you wake up, and if you fall right back asleep, it's like you fall right back into that dream. So it's just like exactly where you left off, which can be terrifying depending on where you fell asleep in that dream.
I used to have sleep paralysis as a kid. I used to wake my mom up screaming because I couldn't move from the spot I was in. And I remember vividly, even to this day, when I was a kid, that something was holding my arms up and was tickling me in the middle of the night. I'm pretty sure it was a dream, but it was all the time. But it was only in this one apartment that we were in, so it might have had something to do with the apartment, bad energy or something, or just anxiety.
I'm surprised you were able to scream. I feel like in all of my sleep paralysis, like I'm so paralyzed, like voice, mouth, everything that
Yeah.
like it's that feeling. I feel like if they could track my blood pressure when it happens, it goes so high because I'm trying to scream. Like every muscle I'm trying to contract in my chest to scream and wake myself up or like snap out of it, and I can't. It's just like I can't do anything but lay there.
Yeah.
And usually it's like you can relate. It's terrifying what you're seeing or what you're experiencing. It's not pleasant. Like, yay, sleep paralysis.
I try and scream in my sleep to wake up or scream for help, or I'll be screaming for help in my dream. And Ariana wakes me up. She's like, "Can you shut up?" That's her response to me. She's like, "Can you shut up?" Because I'm screaming, but I'm not screaming as me. I'm screaming in a weakened state. So all I can muster out is, remember that scene from Princess Bride when he pumps him full of air and then presses on his stomach? That's pretty much what it sounds like when I'm screaming, but it's much louder. Yeah. 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 So she says I sound like a girl trying to scream in my sleep.
Oh gosh. Here you are comforting her when she has nightmares, and you're like screaming in your sleep, and she's like, "Hey, shut up."
Can you shut up?
Oh man, that's funny. So, since I've been little, I can lucid dream to an extent where not only am I aware when I'm dreaming, but once I figure out that I'm dreaming, I can I've learned to do this. It's so weird. It's like a muscle, like where you're practicing over time. So, I've learned to like manifest things in my dreams, like I want to see this person or I want to do that or I want to change my dream, and I've been able to develop that over time, but I have to first acknowledge that I'm dreaming before I can do any of that. Like, it has to be okay. I'm aware I'm asleep. Now I need to change what I'm dreaming. But similar to what Callie was saying, it's exhausting. Like, the next morning, it felt like I didn't sleep at all. And I oftentimes wonder, though, if the sleep paralysis is somehow connected to my ability to lucid dream.
Well, I think it very possibly could, because part of the reason that our muscles are paralyzed when we're dreaming is so that we don't actually get up and act out the dreams that we're having. And so you could be having a more, I don't know if severe is the right term, but you might be having more paralysis because you're actually lucid dreaming, and so you're doing more in your dreams, if that makes sense. And so your muscles just have to be more paralyzed to keep you from getting up and walking around in real life. So
I think I did read that somewhere, and it's funny because back in the medieval days or the dark ages, people thought that your body was being paralyzed or there's a demon sitting on you and was actually messing with you in your sleep and holding you down. That was a common thing. So you'll see these wood carvings, the wood prints of like demons sitting on the person while they're sleeping, because that's what they believed back then. Good old science.
So then, real quick, Callie or Ashley, so would you be able to define or summarize what lucid dreaming is for those who might be listening and don't fully understand that concept?
Ooh, Lila coming in with the serious question.
Love a good definition.
Lucid dreaming is just the awareness that you're dreaming. And so we actually talked about this in another episode. There is a difference, although people sometimes use it interchangeably, between astral travel and lucid dreaming. Astral travel is where you actually go somewhere else, but lucid dreaming is simply the awareness that you're dreaming.
I think there was a movie based loosely on that, right? Like it was like an experiment or something like that, and there was the good guys and the bad guys, and there's this bad guy scientist that was trying to take advantage of the new technology to be able to control dreams. I forget what it was called, but I remember him turning into like a cobra head or something like that in the dream. There was something, he was on a train and they were fighting on a train. No one, No Dreamcatcher.
I feel like
maybe,
this might have been a dream for you.
might have been. It's probably like that one time I thought all Nightmare on Elm Streets were the same movie.
Yes.
Oh.
Yes, that was great.
It's like they're all just one movie, one continuation.
Yeah.
No, I mean that sounds familiar, but I don't know. You lost me at the Cobra Head, but yeah.
Oh.
That's where he lost me, because I was like, that sounds familiar. But then I started thinking, I think the one I was remembering was that one where they would kill themselves.
Oh, Flatliners.
And then bring themselves, yeah. That, I think when he was describing it, that's where I was going. And then obviously I got off the train at Cobra Head.
I was right there with you, Callie.
Shane is going to ask the Google.
Well, it's not Dreamcatcher because that's the Stephen King one where the alien.
Yeah, that one was trippy.
Yeah.
Well, oh my God, it's gonna make me.
We'll figure
Man,
it out. Someone called Nathan.
Yeah, someone called Nathan.
He would know. He's like our movie guru.
There's somebody right now out there screaming at their phone. It's whatever the movie is.
I know. Someone knows it.
We'll get a DM when this episode comes out. Yes. Hey, by the way.
Shane will remember as soon as I hit stop. Oh, what was this movie? Dang it. Hit record again, Ashley. And I think too, we can all agree that lucid dreaming is real. Like that is a scientific thing. People can be aware that they're dreaming. It's just a self-awareness that you are asleep and dreaming while you are asleep. But this is where there's different schools of thought of what you can do with lucid dreaming. One of the topics that we brought up, that we said we were going to talk about is dream walking. And that's one of the things that people believe that you're capable of doing if you can lucid dream. When you're aware that you are dreaming, some people believe that you can then leave your own mind, your own dreams, and walk, pretty much like transport yourself, for lack of a better term, into another person's dreams. Because of that idea of like collective consciousness that we all have, that we're all connected to. And when we are dreaming, some people believe that we are connected a little bit more deeply into that. We're actually kind of all, what's the best way to say that? Lifting the veil and then connecting a little better so we are more accessible. So for me, I was always a little scared that if I'm asleep, I'm vulnerable. Because if I can dream walk to somebody, right? People can dream walk to me and influence my dreams. So that kind of always terrified me. Like, who's going to come assault me in my dreams?
Dreamscape with Dennis Quaid and Max von Sydow. That's how you say it.
Never watched that.
And see, even like, I wasn't wrong about the Cobra Head. Probably can't see it.
No,
look at
I
that.
Can see it. Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Okay. Well, now we know. And that's a Dennis Quaid movie.
Yeah, and that was the only scene I remember. I didn't even remember Dennis Quaid being in it. That was the only scene I remember out of the movie.
It's a memorable
He remembers
scene.
the Cobra, but not Dennis Quaid.
Some scenes are that memorable.
Randy Quaid's more memorable than Dennis, I believe. So, has anyone had a dream that is repetitious and exactly the same, where you thought it was maybe trying to tell you something? My mom used to have a dream before I was born or while she's pregnant with me. And she had a dream that she was in the hospital and she gave birth to twins. And one was a beautiful child and the other one was a reptilian type child. And this old man entered the hospital room and tells him one's going to be the savior of the world and the other one's going to be the destroyer. And she had this dream over and over and over again. I'm like, well, you didn't have twins, so obviously it didn't come true.
Now we know why you're obsessed with the Cobra Head.
Right?
Yeah.
Let me guess, you're the reptilian child.
Could be both, maybe.
You just merged into one. It's two sides of the same sword.
I don't think my aspirations are anything near destroying or saving the world, no.
So when she had that dream, Shane, had she given birth to you yet?
No.
Okay. Was she pregnant with you
Yeah.
at the time? That could have been like a pregnancy fear or stress dream, where even if she didn't have twins, she could have been worried about like the two sides of who you were going to be. That you were going to be the good twin and the bad twin basically all in one. And that could have just been a pregnancy fear dream, because a lot of people will have those, a lot of women, when they're pregnant. So
That makes sense. I had a nightmare that I was going to have triplets.
Dun,
Well, sorry to tell you this.
You manifested it.
yeah.
I could, you know what? I think about, like, we're talking about pregnancy dreams. I used to have the same dream when I was first pregnant. When I was pregnant with Emma, I had the same dream where, like, she wasn't, I was pregnant, so she wasn't born yet, but that I had a baby and she was asleep on my bed. And this, like, banshee like woman would burst out from the closet. And I knew her purpose was to take my child. And who knows what, but I knew if she got her hands on her, I would never get my child back. So I would always form a triangle around her to protect her. So I was always the top of the triangle, and I would reach my hands back, and two hands would grab my hands from two different women. And I never looked back to see who was forming the other corners of the triangle, because my focus was to keep this banshee woman away from my, child. And I was always facing her head on, holding the hands of these two women. And I could tell that they were like a familial spirit. So it was like family, or that feeling you get with family, but I never knew who they were. And it was always just a triangle around her. She would just rage in my face, and she could never touch me. She could never hurt me as long as we were holding the triangle. But she would just be
Sounds like La Llorona.
yeah, she would be raging in my face, and eventually she'd just like leave, and I knew that, like, my child was safe to face another day. But it was the same dream over and over and over again, all the time that I was pregnant, and it was always out of that closet for some reason. Never had those dreams like my other two. Like, I never had those kind of dreams, but only with Emma did I have those kind of dreams. And I was like, I never understood what it was, but I'm just
First
like,
child anxiety kind of thing.
yeah, probably. It's like, I gotta protect her against this banshee. So,
Well, you know the significance of a banshee in Irish folklore, right?
no.
So if you see a banshee, the banshee is a bringer of death or deliverer of that message. Usually if you see a message like a banshee or a carriage with no driver, usually that means death is coming for somebody in your family.
For more on that, go back to the Urban Legends episode that we did with Shane.
I always felt like the triangle was a symbolism I didn't understand in that dream. That there was something significant about that I never understood, but after a while I just stopped trying to guess.
I think it's also interesting that you said that you never looked back, but you realized that these were like two women holding your hands. So I think that's an interesting little thing to know, is that you never saw these people, but you realized that they were other women trying to help you out.
I feel as if it's an ancestral connection, and I always get the sides wrong, but I think it's your left side is your maternal side and your right side is your paternal side. And so to me, what that would mean would be that the ancestors from both sides of your family were coming together to protect this child that you were going to give birth to.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
Okay, let's see if you have an explanation to this one.
Callie's like, I said I wasn't going to do dream interpretation.
And I honestly was telling myself, I'm like, okay, I'm not going to add, hey, what do you think about that? No. But while we're on the topic of dreams, in impeding on your real life, well, we were living in this house, and a bunch of weird things happened in that house, especially while we were sleeping. In one scenario, I actually woke up from a nap I was taking as a kid, and I was probably like 11 or 12. And I remember walking down the stairs, and the entire walls started coming out at me and started like reaching out at me and everything. And then I was just kind of in a daze. And then my dog's face just was like distorted and almost like the dog off of the Mask, only more horrific. But that was one scenario. Then my mom told me this story where she was sleeping in their room, and basically somebody opened the door. This big dark figure was silhouetted in the door, and then walked right in and grabbed her by the ankle and started walking out and dragging her out of the room. And she's immediately, screamed, in the name of God, go back to hell. And she wakes up, and her feet are over the edge of the bed, like just hanging over the edge of the bed like that. And so to this day, we don't know what it means, or we just, maybe there was something going on with the house, or maybe it's just a really bad dream and she was starting to sleepwalk.
It very well could have been where she was in the middle of sleep paralysis and kind of coming out of it, like you said, and about to sleepwalk, which is why she would have woken up to hanging off the bed. Because what I would equate that to is like a near-death experience. Did she have any experience with something medical going on at the time, where in her mind she might have felt that she had been in danger of basically being pulled out of this life and into another life?
No.
Okay. That's what I'm getting from it. But obviously with a dream like that, I would need to sit down and really pull it apart. So if that doesn't resonate, then I'm not sure on that one.
It's perfectly okay, because neither are we.
Right.
And that's really all she told me too, so I don't know if we would even get more information out of it. But scared the hell out of her.
I think when it comes to dreams too, and this is where I get a little woo-woo, my natural inclination is to always say, trust your instinct. I think out of fear, we sometimes want to place this as an external factor. There's, something supernatural at play. But I think inside, in our gut, we know when something is rooted from within us versus external to us. So I think that especially when it's fresh, and not too fresh, like I just woke up screaming, but like maybe later that day after it's, the sun's out and it's time to calm down, maybe sitting down with yourself and just analyzing, not analyzing, but feeling within yourself, like, was that from me? And I think that takes time to kind of get acquainted with yourself to be able to identify that. Like I said, love-hate relationship with my dreams. So like 36 years, that's right. I'm 36 years young. I've gotten to a place where I am comfortable enough, for the most part, with saying that I do feel some dreams do not come from me. They're not derived from my psychology, my brain, my subconscious, because there's an element or a signature energy to them that is not mine.
Like implanted?
Or, we talk about dream walking. We mentioned that earlier, like the idea that, is it possible to have someone else impact your dreams, someone else invade your dreams or walk into your dreams, intentionally or not intentionally? Because if we're all little like brain wavelengths, radio waves, can the radio waves get crossed as we're dreaming and, expanding out? And so for me, it's just like, did that come from me? And I know people are really like, that's an uncomfortable question. Like that opens up a whole can of worms that can cause fear, right? Like, oh my God, someone can impact my dreams while I'm asleep. That's terrifying. Nope. But maybe there's a power in that, in acknowledging that maybe not all of our dreams do derive from us.
Well, two things come to mind, kind of unrelated, listening to you talk. First of all, another explanation for dreams not coming from you are that as we walk around during the day, we have a lot of experiences that we don't even know that we have. You're seeing things out of the corner of your eye and you're not really paying attention to them. You're hearing conversations that you're not a part of, but they're still filtering into your brain, that type of thing. That happens all the time. Now, what dreams are is your brain's way of defragging your computer. So when you defragment your computer, have you ever watched where they take the little pieces and put everything back where it belongs? And so at nighttime, we defrag our computer. And we take all of these seemingly random things that happen to us that we might not even remember because they weren't important to us, and we just file them into our great filing system. So when you have a dream that may seem scary, maybe it was as simple as you actually heard somebody talking about that and just weren't paying attention to it. But the other thing that I wanted to mention was you talking about people walking into your dreams and sort of taking control of your dreams. I like to believe that even when we're asleep, that whatever you want to call it, your spirit, your your higher self, God, angels, whatever you refer to it. I like to believe that, I call it the higher self, is watching over you when you sleep. So while someone might be able to walk into your dreams, if they were actually going to put you into danger, your higher self would take you, or would take control and would wake you up.
Interesting.
Well, I mean, even still with the whole dream walking, I mean, Ashley, you and I kind of, I don't know if you remember, but we experienced that when we first started talking and stuff, hanging out. I know you were having super bad nightmares and stuff like that. And we talked a lot, throughout that in the beginning. And I remember having what I thought was the exact same dream as you. It turns out I think I probably came into your dream to kind of help you out with whatever it was that it, was going on. Because we, the next day talked about it. Yeah.
I remember during that time, and I think this gets to a level of vulnerability where I start to get a little uncomfortable um, when talking about some of my experiences. But I find that I'm pretty sensitive to energies and photographs. And so I try to be careful when I'm looking at photographs of places with very high levels of reported supernatural activity or metaphysical activity because if the off chance is that it's true, and I take it with a healthy skepticism, anytime I see something, I'm not automatically, ooh, it's haunted. But in the off chance that it is true, sometimes I do find that I get disrupted if I do find some like feel an energy that's strong and alarming from a photograph of a place. And I had a while ago, years ago, a friend of mine was going to a supposed haunted place to do a paranormal investigation, sent me some photos of what it looks like now of where he was going, and then like I felt the energy in some of the places of the pictures, so not all the pictures, just some of the pictures. I felt the energy and was drawn to, and I'm like, I don't want to look at these anymore. But when I went to sleep that night, I had dreams of exactly what they went through that evening during their investigation. So when I talked to them the next day about like how'd it go, and he was telling me everything they encountered, I was like, holy shit, I dreamt that, like I was there. But the place didn't look the same. So I described it, and he sent me pictures of what it used to look like back before it was rebuilt, and that's what I had dreamt, of how it used to look like. So I almost feel like in that instance, the energy of the place that I was picking up on was from its previous rebuilt days, and that I somehow got pulled in, like it created that connection. So I got pulled in to that space while I was asleep. So with John, I don't know if you remember this, John, but during that time that I was having really bad dreams, this had happened after Kevin and John had shown me pictures from one of their, what was that place?
Oh, maybe the melting pot. I can't remember. No, Waverly
No,
Hills.
there was,
It was
was it
Waverly
Waverly
Hills.
Hills?
Ironically enough, Lana's wearing a shirt from Waverly Hills.
And and it wasn't every picture. So
Right.
again, it wasn't like they had like so many pictures. It wasn't every picture. There was just one room that they showed, like there were pictures of that. As soon as I looked at it, it's like I froze, and it felt like ice cold water was being dumped over me, and I was like, oh no. And I'm like closing the pictures, handed it back, and I'm like, thanks, no thanks, I'm good. I put it away, I'm safe, right? And then for like a week, I started having awful nightmares. And then I was telling John about them. And one night, he had, I guess the next morning, he told me what he dreamt. And I was like, holy cow, that's exactly what I dreamt. So I don't know whether that stuff is just coincidence or not. But
I don't think it's coincidence. I think some people are just more receptive to energy in general, and dreams are, I don't know, in my opinion, another form of energy. I mean, if you can attract positive and negative energy alike, then why wouldn't that affect your dreams and your thought patterns and your I guess the same way as electromagnetic frequencies can affect a computer, fragmenting or defragging. I guess that would be the same, or the analogy. Is that the right analogy?
mm-hmm.
So maybe some people are just a little bit more receptive to that kind of stuff than others. I mean, Ashley, I know you've always been that very, very sensitive and very receptive, whether you like to or not. And then there's some of us who don't want any part of it because they know it's just kind of like, I don't want to throw up when I'm sick, so I'm going to avoid doing that at all costs. Some people just can't help it. They're like, no, just get it out.
Let it
Yeah,
go.
you're right. Whether I like it or not.
Whether you like it or not. Yeah.
Which is honestly why I try not to look when you tell me, have you watched Paranormal Caught on Camera? Have you watched it? I'm like, nope.
Yeah. It's probably a good idea that you don't watch that show. Yeah.
Yeah. The off chance something is. And it's unfortunate because I don't know until I see something in that moment that it's like, oh, that's not good. I shouldn't have watched that.
You're like a teleportation device for energy influences.
Sweet. I found the way to teleport.
Yeah.
Can I teleport to Tahiti though, or like Fiji? Like, can we find a haunted spot there on the beach?
Somewhere nice and warm. Well, I mean, if you can
With the
control your
mojito.
dreams.
I know, right? That's what I should do. I think, unfortunately, in my dreams, when it gets to the point where I feel like panicked to change them, it's because it's a moment of panic. It's like I'm in a nightmare and I realize I'm dreaming, and then I'm literally trying to dream jump into another dream. And that takes a lot of energy. Like I usually end up having, if when I do something like that, I usually end up having like a migraine the next day. It's just no good for the brain. The brain needs rest.
What does the professional in the room think about dream jumping?
Are you talking to me? I'm no professional.
We're all just gonna sit here and wait for Callie.
Like we're all staring at Callie on our screen, and she's just like,
Me? What?
No pressure. No, I totally believe in dream jumping, and I have had it happen to me where I've ended up in someone else's dream or had them end up in mine. You know, I believe in the connection of energy. And Shane, as you were saying, dreams are just another form of energy because everything is energy. And so if you're vibrating on the same frequency, and especially, you know, like Ashley and John, when you were talking about how you guys had a lot of conversations before John actually ended up having the same dream as you. And I think that's because you guys were vibrating on the same energy level, like attracts like. And so what happens? You end up meshing together. Yeah, dream walking and dream jumping is absolutely positive, or possible, excuse me, as long as you're on the same frequency. So.
And just a little short tidbit real quick. Sorry, Lai, I didn't mean to interrupt you. But I remember back in the, I don't know, probably the 90s, they had a Freddy's Nightmares. It was a TV show. There was one episode that I remember, and it was these twin sisters, and they would go into each other's dreams and help fight Freddy or whoever it was. I can't remember. It stuck out in my head, and it just kind of reminded me of the whole thing. So I had to bring that up. Sorry.
Yeah, and if you're able to lucid dream and know that you're dreaming, then you absolutely can eventually work to the point where you can control moving into other people's dreams. So.
well, and I think when we're talking about dreams, I think children's dreams are pretty interesting too. Like, I know Emma, my oldest, has had a lot of vivid dreams, but I remember when she was younger, she was about, oh gosh, 4, and she used to insist, like, she was obsessed with outer space, and she used to insist that, like, Mars, we could grow food on Mars. And I'm like, no, that will not sustain us. And she said, but Mama, there's water. And I'm like, there's not water on Mars. She said, yes, it is. You just can't see it because it's under the ground.
At age
And
4?
yep, age 4. And then a year later, I was just sitting down looking at the TV, and there was this news thing that came up that like they had found ice particles under the surface of Mars. And I just looked at her like,
She's gonna be the next Elon Musk.
she told me there's water under the surface of Mars. I'm like, she said in her childlike way of, you just can't see it. It's under the ground. And it's like, okay, I don't think there is, but sure enough. But I did remember one of her dreams that had stuck out to me at 4 that she had told me, well, there were a few. That same house that I had nightmares of the banshee woman in the closet. Well, when we moved out of that house, she would tell us, I'm so glad we left the blue house. And it's like, why? And she said, because the skeletons in the closet wanted to eat my toes. And it's just like, what? And we don't allow her to watch the scary things. So it's not like I know I miss horror. I wouldn't let her watch those things. Not to say she wasn't influenced by images in the world, but she's not watching horror movies, but she would insist that like she would be laying there, and years after this, like 5, 6, 7, she would still maintain and remember that like the skeletons in the closet would come out of her closet and try and eat her toes through her crib. And I'm like, the fact she was so adamant on that, I'm like, that was quite a dream. She must have been having quite a bit of the same dream.
Sounds like you passed down that gift.
It seems to have gone away a bit over time, but I remember one of her dreams, which I think Callie might be interested, is while we were living in Utah, and she was obsessed with Mars and outer space. She still is obsessed with outer space, by the way. But she told me, Mama, I had the best dream. And I was like, really? What was it? And she's like, Mama, we were dancing on Saturn. And I was just like, that sounds really nice. We were dancing on Saturn. She said, yes, Mama, it was so beautiful. We were dancing on Saturn. It was so beautiful. And I was like, okay, well, that does sound nice, but where was Daddy and Cole? And she said, oh, Mama, they can't dance on Saturn like we can. And I was just like, well, why not, Emma? Like, why can't they dance on Saturn? And she says, because they don't have the special powers we do to dance on Saturn. And I was just like, what does that mean? What powers do she and I have that, like...
Lunar goddess powers.
Lunar goddess powers. Yes, damn right. We could dance on Saturn. You can dance if you want to.
That sounds like, she might be something special.
Yeah. To me, first of all, not downplaying the dream at all, because I'm going to go in a different direction first, but first of all, children have very vivid imaginations. Mm-hmm. Where those imaginations come from, however, are a different question. Because, okay, we've talked about this before. Time is not linear. We, having our human experience, make time linear because that's how it makes sense. Mm-hmm. But time is not linear. The past is happening now. The future is happening now. Okay, so your daughter very well could have been, Giuseppe agrees with me. Your daughter could have been defragging a different dimension or a different time period. So there could be a period, because we all reincarnate with the same people over and over again. We come back in different roles, but we have our soul clusters that we come back together. And you and your daughter probably reincarnate over and over and over together. And there could be a period of time when you really are dancing on Saturn, and she's putting that defragmented piece of her life right back into where it belongs.
That is beautiful.
Wow. I feel like that needs a whole nother episode of podcast just by itself.
That always happens.
I feel like that's going to be the title of the podcast, Dancing on Saturn.
Or we can dance if we want to.
Right.
Before we go too far, I know I interrupted Lila earlier, and I didn't mean to do that.
Oh, no, it was fine. I mean, the time for that has kind of passed by now, but I was just gonna ask to anyone who wants to answer, how do you realize if you are dream hopping or dream walking, or if someone is coming into your dream to do that versus them just being in the dream and you just seeing them as like this sort of background character in whatever narrative might be going on in your head? How do you notice that this is intentional and that they are doing this to you, or that you are doing it to them versus them just being around?
I'm pretty sure it's a lot like what Callie's doing in terms of analogy with the cat. You know how the cat keeps trying to push its way into the scene, and she just keeps...
Oh, he's not trying. He's making it.
And then the cat's like, no, I don't care. I'm coming in anyway. I don't know. I've never had the ability. I'm kind of glad I don't, because I'm afraid of what damage I might cause if I did. But I would imagine it's like that SpongeBob episode, where he just keeps dream hopping into people's dreams, and they getting pissed off because it's their dreams and he's ruining it, and you're not supposed to be here. It's my dream. And Gary can talk,
I love the SpongeBob analogy.
For me, the way that I know that is just because we then have I have a conversation with the person, and I tell them what I dreamed, and then they tell me that they dreamed the same thing. So it's really about communication in your waking life. as far as I'm concerned. If there's another way of knowing it, I don't know. I haven't figured that out, but
I think that there's a few terms we may be using interchangeably that may not be in my head. So, dream walking, I feel like, is when you go out of your dream into somebody else's dreams, or vice versa. Someone else enters yours, they're dream walking into yours. Dream jumping, at least for me, when I use it, is I'm changing my dream. So, I am physically going from one of my dreams to another one of my own dreams.
Right.
But I guess it could be used as like dream jumping out into a different
Right.
but for me, when I use it, I'm jumping from one of my own dreams to another of my own dreams, by choice. So for me, I, similar to what Callie said, I don't know I've been dreamwalking or someone's been dreamwalking to me until, or I'm sorry, let me walk that back. I don't know I've been dreamwalking until someone has confirmed that what I dreamed they experienced. Now, the interesting thing with some of my dreams is that my dreams have been not in somebody else's dreams. Like when I walked to my friend's experience when they were actively in a paranormal investigation and I saw what they were experiencing throughout the evening. I dreamt it, but they weren't asleep. So I don't know what you would call that. Um, when it comes to someone dream walking into my dreams, let's say it's real, I feel like I sense the additional presence of an energy that is not mine. So it's like being in a room, right? Like we're awake and we're in a room, and someone walks in the room and you can't see them necessarily, but you feel them enter the room. That's kind of what it feels like to me in a dream when I do feel like someone is invading my dream space, is it feels like someone else just walked into my room as well. And then it's like, oh, you don't belong here. Go back to your own space.
but see, Ashley, for you, the thing is that you're able to lucid dream. Not everyone can lucid dream. And so
Fair.
you have to be lucid dreaming to recognize that an energy has invaded your space that doesn't belong there, because you have to know you're in the dream. So if you don't know you're in a dream, like for me, I don't lucid dream. And so when I wake up the next day, I would just have to have a conversation with the person, that I dreamed about to see if they were actually in my dream. So that's the difference between, say, you and I, because you're lucid dreaming, you can recognize that this energy doesn't belong there, where for me, it could just be a weird part of the dream. Does that make sense?
Yeah, and I think what's interesting is oftentimes in well, not oftentimes, in every scenario that I do feel I've identified that this is not my, like, I'm not alone in my dream, that's the moment that I was able to recognize I was lucid dreaming. Like that snapped me into I am dreaming and somebody else is in here with me. But to your point, it's something I can recognize. Not everybody can lucid dream. So it's one of those things I think we discussed before where it's like I experience something and just assume everybody else like experiences it the same way. And it's like, no, that's not the case.
True. Well, and one thing I do want to make clear is I think everyone can lucid dream. I don't think all of us, like me, are good at it or are able to access it. I think if I practiced more with it, I would be able to do it. But there's a lot of different times I use this analogy with a lot of different things. It's like playing the piano. Some of us are born Beethoven, and some of us are barely able to play Mary Had a Little Lamb. But we are all able to play the piano, if that makes sense. So, when I say I don't lucid dream, it doesn't mean that I can't lucid dream. It just means that I'll never be Beethoven at it, where you were just born with that innate ability to be able to do
You're
it.
the prodigy.
Oh, no.
Exactly.
No, I think for me personally, when I'm dreaming, I know that I am dreaming, and I realize, okay, I am not awake. This is not actually happening, but I don't have any control over what is going on. It's like watching a movie where it's like the scene is laid out in front of you and you just sit back and watch. So it's kind of like when I am dreaming, I'm just watching whatever is happening, but there is no control over that. And so that's kind of why I was asking the questions of how do you know that oh, someone is coming into your dream and changing the plot, or changing the script of the movie versus, oh, this is how this was actually supposed to play out. But I don't know. I didn't know where I was going with that. I just thought it was very interesting.
So in real life, Lila, if say you're sitting with your back to a door and someone enters the room and you don't necessarily hear them, but you just kind of feel a change in the room, right?
I definitely get what you mean about feeling someone around you. I don't think that
Okay.
I've ever thought about it outside of this context. I don't spend too much time analyzing dreams, but hey, maybe I should start a dream journal or something. Maybe that would be productive.
Yeah, that would be my suggestion. And it would be, if you are able to obviously lucid dream then, because you just know you're dreaming, then pay attention when someone comes in, if they don't feel like they belong, like, this dream was going this way and then here comes this person, and you're no longer dreaming about them, you're dreaming with them. So keep a dream journal, I would definitely suggest, and feel the difference, because when we dream, we know the difference between just a normal everyday dream and one that really means something. We all know that. We've all woken up going, that dream had something to say. So pay attention, keep notes. That's what I would do.
And the thing I used to do, and I found that I could lucid dream more and dream jump more with practice, was in the morning when I first wake up. I would do what I called, I don't know if there's actually a term, but what I called gingerbread crumbs. So I would recall my last dream as vividly as I can, but do it in reverse. What was the last thing I remembered? What did I dream? What was the last thing I remembered in sequence backwards? Oftentimes, when I would get to the beginning, quote unquote, of that dream, I would somehow remember a little piece of the one before that. And it's just like following the gingerbread crumbs backwards to see how many dreams I could remember. And when I would practice that consistently, and it wouldn't take me that long, because it's vivid right when you first wake up, like when you're writing it down. When I would practice that consistently, I got to the point where I could remember up to like 5 dreams from back to back to back. I think that might help with lucid dreaming and being able to start to dream jump, because you're training your brain in a way differently, to identify crumbs within your dreams, to track your dreams and remember them a little differently. So I do think it's a different training of the brain. Now, I don't know what comes with that. I don't know if you're going to start getting sleep paralysis like I did, if that's all intertwined somehow. So I say, for my listeners and my friends engaging in this, if that's something you practice, just know I don't know if that trains your brain in a way that does open you up to maybe a little bit more sleep paralysis, because you are actively interrupting your dreams. I don't know what that does, but I think that it's a fascinating world.
Well, and the one thing that's important to remember is that what you're talking about is building a muscle, because remembering your dreams it's like a muscle. It's where the more you build it and the more you practice with it, the better you're going to get at it. So,
What were you going to say, Shane?
I was just going to say, how does one practice lucid dreaming?
There's actually a bunch of different ways. One of them is like the reality testing, where you kind of, throughout the day, you just ask yourself, hey, am I dreaming? Am I dreaming? Or, they say, like, look at your hands, because you hardly ever look at your hands in your dream, stuff like that. And so if you look at your hands while you're dreaming, you're like, all right, okay, then I'm dreaming, or whatever. Something weird like that.
But how, I don't know if I see myself in a dream realizing that I'm dreaming and going, look at my hands, because it just is almost like a movie that I'm watching, and then it ends, and I'm like, okay.
Right.
It's for me, it was a muscle practice too when you're going to bed. So it's like a meditation prior to bed, and it's telling yourself one thing before you go to bed, whether it's I am going to sleep, I am going to
So
sleep,
it's
I
prepping
am going to
yourself,
sleep.
pretty much.
Yeah, you carry it with you, or I am dreaming, or even something like look at my hand, look at my hand, look at my hand, because you're going to sleep with that in the forefront of your mind. So you carry it in with you. Again, for my friends who are listening, lucid dreaming sounds fun and all, but do know this does, like Callie said, and like a few of us have said, this does take a toll on you. This is not something I would practice or recommend practicing every night, attempting to lucid dream. Give yourself space, just like any other muscle memory or muscle strength you're trying to build or train, because your brain does need rest, like true rest. Your brain does need to defrag, like Callie said, and reset and do its like cycling of everything it was exposed to throughout the day. So it would not be something that I would say like practice every night. But if it's something you are curious about, I'd say different techniques work for different people. So try the different ones, but don't try it just once. Just like a muscle, that you're building strength up, it may take a while for that trick to work for you. But for me, it really was just a natural thing that happened for me as I was growing up. But I do believe, like Callie said, anybody's capable of doing it. It just may be teaching yourself the trick to recognizing your sleep by prepping yourself ahead of time.
A lot of a lot of what we're talking about requires prepping yourself when you go to sleep. So setting your intention, basically. I am going to remember my dreams, or I am going to know I'm dreaming, or like you're saying, I am sleeping, so that you know it, that you're sleeping when you're in your dream. But then the second piece is when you wake up. So what we were talking about with Lila, keeping a dream journal. When you do wake up, writing down what you remember. So it's sort of it's a two-piece thing. It's not just as you're going to sleep. It's also important to remember to pay attention to what's happening as you're waking up. And I can't remember the statistics. I could look it up. I have it in my phone about how much we forget how quickly. So if you're trying to remember your dreams and you wake up and the first thing you do is go to the bathroom, you're going to lose about 50% of your dreams, if I remember correctly, in the first 5 minutes of being awake. So you need to hold your bathroom and take a minute to write down in your dream journal, at least enough to trigger your memory and keep that memory going.
That's awesome information. Something I will never, ever take advantage of, but thank you.
And that's okay.
But no, it's good, because I always did wonder how to take, like, how do you lucid dream? How does one realize? Because I don't know, I just don't think I've ever wanted to. Kind of like the whole, I don't ever want to see a ghost. I just don't want to do it. Keep it away.
But you watch Paranormal Caught on Camera.
Yeah, but that's, it's on TV. Yeah, I know.
It's not face to face.
It's a safe distance, unless you're me.
I'm like, did I see something in the shadows there? No, I didn't.
I didn't. Nope, wasn't it. Just deniability.
Yeah.
Well, wow. This has been pretty awesome. I feel like there's still so much left that we could talk about. We'll probably have to do a dreams episode part 2. Talk about nightmares and all those fun things, sex dreams.
I feel we should talk about defragging other realities or other future dimensions in another podcast, because that's deep.
I like that concept. Yeah, we need to get into that more too.
I mean, I would imagine like Jules Verne kind of did that same thing when he wrote, all of his novels, because most of the stuff came true, right? Most of the stuff became a reality.
Yeah.
Oh,
or The Simpsons.
Yeah.
I think The Simpsons.
Yeah.
I mean, come on.
Do we have any last thoughts before we wrap it up?
No. I think we should definitely do a part 2 though, and then also touch on the other topics, because I think there's a lot we can go with this.
Yes, definitely.
I agree.
I agree. I'm with you.
Awesome. Yay, guys. Well, then I will reach out to you to schedule that one. And Shane's like, yeah, we could talk about dimensions and all the things. Anything, last thing, Lila?
I am taking away from this that I will be starting a dream journal just to keep track of things. And I also think that that's super helpful just for like recollection sake. Just knowing, hey, this is what I've been dreaming about, finding common themes, things like that. It could be interesting for anyone to try, but I'm definitely into it.
Well, and as you do that, Lila, if you're ever interested and you'd like to have one interpreted, you can send it to me. Write down every little detail that you remember. There is nothing too small. There's no detail too small. Colors are important. Numbers are important. The silliest detail that makes no sense could be the key to unlock the whole dream. Because if it's important enough for you to bring it back to your waking life and remember it, it's important enough to interpret. So I would be happy to do that for you and kind of see where that goes. Just know that when I interpret, it can get a little bit personal. And like as Ashley was talking about, it can be a vulnerable experience. So that would be just between the two of us. And then you could decide if you wanted to like share it with anybody else. So let me know if you're interested in that.
I would absolutely love that. That's really sweet. Thank you so much.
Of course.
It's awesome.
Yeah, and I think people don't realize too that like what we dream, there's a reason people do dream interpretations. What we dream isn't always like the obvious, like, oh, I had sex with this person. That must mean I'm attracted to them and I want to have sex with them. Like maybe, but maybe not. Like there may be other things that are going on that your brain is interpreting it that way. But um I think that's the biggest one that I've had a few people randomly, mention to me with friends like, "Oh my gosh, I had a dream about this person and it was like sexual and is that weird? Like, what does that mean?" And I'm like, "I don't know, but I don't I don't think it is always as straightforward as that."
Ashley, there's children in the room.
Where? Chucky?
Exactly.
Giuseppe.
Right.
Giuseppe. Earmuffs.
Earmuffs, Giuseppe. So I'm just saying
Yeah.
as one example, because that seems to be the one thing that throws people off a lot, like our sex dreams.
Yeah, absolutely. Dreams are almost never as cut and dried as they appear to be. There's a lot to them. So I don't know. It'll be interesting too. So for sure, let me know if that comes up for you and you want to do that.
She wants me to write down my sex dream. I'm just kidding.
Only if you want to,
Every
Ashley.
detail. She said every detail, every color and number.
You would
Color.
have no
Oh,
idea
just-
what you're getting into with Ashley.
That's what she said. She said every color is important, Shane.
All right. Good night, everybody.
Well,
And with that,
and with that, bring us home, John.
All right. Thank you, everybody, for tuning into this episode of 3Haunted. I am your co-host, John Thomas.
I am Ashley Lunar Goddess.
And thank you to our guest host, Miss Lila, and our special guest, Shane and Callea. Amazing as always. Appreciate you guys coming on. And if anybody out there has any questions, comments, or episode suggestions, please email us at 3hauntedpodcast@gmail.com. And if you haven't done so already, please follow us on all of our social media. You don't want to miss one crazy moment.
Until next time, sweet dreams.